So I've been fascinated by the presentations that I've listened to today, and I'm here to give you a little bit of a different slant. So I'm on the patient perspective on adherence. So up front, I just want to let you know that I don't have any answers, and I have a lot of questions, and I have some very modest insights that I'm going to try and share with you today. So as a patient, and I gather there's a few in the room, it's very comforting to have these kind of symposiums to talk about the issues that we face. And I know that it's the reason we're all here. I want to just, this will not be a shock to any of you, but there is no perfectly adherent patient. A lot of times when I go and I speak to people, and I'm talking with physicians and people in the industry, they say, oh, you know, you're really on top of this, you're really, you know, I have that profile where I'm highly educated, you know, I wish all my patients were like you. And I'm like, oh, no, you don't. I'm a nightmare. I am very difficult to treat. I understand, you know, understanding is one thing, adhering is another. And adherence has many definitions. It's not just, are you taking your meds? It's, you know, are you taking, you know, are you adjusting your meds appropriately? Are you managing your disease every day? Like, you told me I should take 3 units at breakfast. I did. I had 6 donuts at breakfast, and somehow those 3 units just didn't do what you said they were going to do. So, you know, it's a very complex issue, as you all know. So, you know, and I have also heard physicians say to me, you know, why don't patients just do what we tell them to do? And, you know, just take your meds. Take your meds as prescribed. Do what I say. You'll hit your target. Everything will be fine. And, you know, it's not that easy. So my motto recently has been, it's simple, but it's not easy. And there's lots of challenges that we face. So I'm just going to sort of throw them out there again. Nothing you don't know, but just something to think about. One of the things that has struck me today that I've alluded to already is the issue of goal alignment. So what the physician wants the patient to do and what the patient feels that they need to do on a day-to-day basis to live their life in the manner that makes it meaningful for them, you know, these don't always line up and on the same graph. And we need to think about that, and you need to realize that, you know, when there comes some divergence in terms of what the patient wants and what the physician wants, the patient is going to win every time. And winning isn't always winning. It's just managing, and it's just coping. If the treatment does not align with what the patient needs to live their life in the manner that they want, the target or the goal will not survive the first challenge. So that's something to keep in mind. You know, the patient dominates here, and I know that sometimes with physicians that's a little bit difficult to accept, right? The power of the physician in these circumstances, I think, is similar to what, and I have a political science background, similar to what Richard Neustadt said about the power of the presidency. You know, we think of the president as a very powerful person, but really constitutionally he's not, or maybe she's not. But what happens with the presidency, where the power emanates, is from the power to persuade. And I say that is the same thing with the physician. And it's a little bit more complicated. It's the power to persuade the patient and to educate the patient. And I think if you can do that, then you're going to get much more success in goal alignment, right? But that requires the physician to engage the patient, you know, routinely, you know, in depth. And we all know that there's a real tension in that between, you know, how much time and how much resources you are able to spend on every patient. So again, lots of questions, not many answers for that right now. Another problem is in terms of diabetes, type 1, type 2, one size does not fit all, right? The therapies and the course of treatment for diabetics is probably as individualized as each patient. So again, that's a tremendous challenge. And even for the patient, what I did yesterday worked great. I did the same thing today. I'm all over the place. What's going on? You know, lots of challenges every day, and it requires a lot of flexibility, which again is a problem with that term adherence. You know, diabetic patients are responsible for the management and the treatment of their illness every day. And that makes it, and it's complex and it's confounding sometimes. Like I said, you know, you can have, you know, a period of success followed by a tremendous period of failure, and that leads to a lot of emotions, which makes it difficult to go into your to physician when you're, on your 3-month checkup or whatever, and to sort of, understand what's going on, and to deal with the loss of control and the fear of failure and the shame that you might have. So, that's why doctors, you don't say, oh, I have a fear of needles, or, I've been drinking a lot more than I have. My job is really stressful. Or, boy, I went to like 6 weddings and 3 baptisms, and I had, I was just, my life is kind of out of control. Very difficult, especially in maybe 10 minutes of time with a physician, to share all that, and even though it's really meaningful data for a physician to have. So it's very difficult. Another thing is, physicians are not all equal either, just like patients aren't. I mean, very few patients that I know of are fortunate enough to go to a specialist. That's getting increasingly difficult to do. A lot of them go to, I'll just say, generalists, who may not be as up to date on what's going on and what's appropriate and what is a new therapy that you might try, or this is a good strategy for coping with the challenges that you're facing now. So, those are all the challenges in terms of getting a patient sort of on the right path and adhering to that path. From the patient point of view, there's a lot of barriers as well. Some of them are similar, some of them are a little bit different. Human nature is relatively immutable. You're not going to change a lot about it. You're not going to be able to deal all the times with the fear that patients have, or the denial that they are more comfortable with, or the resistance that they have, for instance, to the institution of insulin therapy. When I first went on insulin, I was first diagnosed as a type 2 patient, was on oral meds, and then it turned out I was a type 1, and I went on to insulin. And I've got to tell you, that first time I took that insulin shot, I felt like a complete and utter failure. And, that's very difficult to sort of, it's hard to sell that message that, oh, insulin's a good thing. It's going to help you regain this control. So you've got a lot of emoting going on that can cloud, decision-making or influence it in ways that you may or may not be aware of. There's a tremendous lack of diabetes education, and I'll be the first one to tell you that there's so much I'm ignorant of. Just in the last 2 days, I've learned so much. And I'm always open to these opportunities to learn. And I'm thinking, well, if I'm not getting this kind of information, I, who am invited to these kind of events and, know very many well-respected, highly regarded doctors, well, what hope does the postman that's, putting the mail in my box every day have? Or the guy in guest services at my law firm who's setting up the conference room, and he's a type 2 diabetic, and he can't even tell me what medications he's on. He only knows that the doctor told him to take this pill once a day. So, the idea of making available diabetes education that's meaningful is is a really important hurdle. So we have all these socioeconomic factors we discussed, affluence, education, cultural influences, shame associated with your treatment, not wanting to take your shot outside the house, etc. These are all barriers. So in terms of increasing adherence goals, or how do we get to these goals? What can we do? Here are my thoughts, as meager as they are. Simplify, simplify, simplify. The easier you can make it for diabetics to deal with what they have to deal with every day, the more adherence you're going to get. The better education that you have for diabetics, the better they're going to understand what they have to do and be able to make those decisions that they have to make every day on their own. There's a new frontier in terms of using social media to do the sort of support and outreach and education and dissemination of information that I think is sort of an untapped field that we can look forward to. And if we can do all these things, we can empower patients, we can engage the patients, and then we'll be in a better position to deal with what I think we all realize is the gathering storm of diabetes. Thank you.